They say your wedding day should be the happiest day of your life. For me, it started with a text message that shattered everything I believed about family. My name is Ashley, and this is the story of how I discovered what being alone truly meant, and how somehow that same day taught me the real meaning of love, too. It was the morning of my wedding. The sun had barely risen, and the light coming through my hotel window felt calm, almost sacred. My bridesmaids were still asleep, makeup brushes and dresses scattered everywhere. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding my phone, scrolling through messages. That's when I saw it. A text from my mom. It said, "Don't expect anyone to come." At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe she meant something else. Maybe autocorrect had ruined the message. But then I saw the second one. "You made your choice, Ashley. Now live with it." My heart froze. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. To understand why my mom would send something like that, you have to know the story that led up to this day. I grew up in a small town in Oregon, in a family that believed in appearances more than honesty. My dad was a respected doctor, my mom ran the local charity club, and my younger sister, Chloe, was the golden child. Beautiful, confident, adored. And me? I was the quiet one. The one who followed the rules, stayed out of trouble, and tried to make everyone proud. Everything changed 3 years ago, when I met Nathan. He wasn't from our world. Nathan was an engineer, smart, grounded, and honest, but he didn't come from money. My parents never liked that. They said he wasn't our kind of people. My mom even told me once, "You can't build a future with someone who doesn't know which fork to use at dinner." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. When Nathan proposed to me last year, I knew what it meant. Not just a promise of love, but a declaration of independence. I told my parents. My mom's face went cold. My dad looked down, silent. Chloe smirked from behind her coffee cup. Mom said, "If you marry him, don't expect us to be there." I thought it was just anger talking. I thought she'd change her mind. But as I stood there that morning, wedding dress hanging by the mirror, her words were right there on my phone. And suddenly, they weren't just words anymore. They were real. I took a deep breath, wiped my tears, and told myself not to cry. Not today. Nathan didn't deserve to see me broken. When he called that morning, his voice was full of excitement, the kind that makes you believe everything will be okay. "Hey, beautiful," he said. "You ready to become Mrs. Carter?" I tried to sound cheerful, always, but my voice cracked, and he noticed. "Ash, what's wrong?" I said, "Nothing, just nerves." I didn't have the heart to tell him that my family, my whole family, wasn't coming. I wanted this day to be about us, not about who didn't show up. So I smiled through the makeup, through the photos, through the small talk. My friends tried to keep me busy. But every time someone mentioned family seating, my chest tightened. There was supposed to be a row marked bride's family. Now it would be empty. Or at least, that's what I thought. The wedding that almost fell apart. When I arrived at the venue, I saw the white chairs, the flowers, the music set up. Everything looked perfect. But there was a silence, the kind that doesn't belong at weddings. Nathan's family was there, smiling, waving, welcoming me warmly. They made me feel like one of them, even though deep inside I felt the hollow absence of my own. As I walked down the aisle, I tried not to look at the empty seats, but I couldn't help it. Every face I didn't see reminded me of what I'd lost. Halfway down, I caught Nathan's eyes, and in that moment, everything else faded. His smile, his tears, the way he looked at me like I was the only person that mattered. It gave me strength. The ceremony began. The vows were beautiful. For a few moments, I forgot the pain. until something strange happened. Right as the officiant said, if anyone has any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, the doors at the back of the hall opened. My heart stopped. Everyone turned around. There stood my mom, dressed in black. Not elegant, not festive, black. Behind her was Chloe, my sister, also dressed in black, arms crossed, smirking. A whisper rippled through the crowd. My mom didn't walk in, she marched, and she didn't come alone. A few of her charity friends followed behind, all looking uncomfortable but obedient, as if this was some kind of performance. Nathan froze. The officiant hesitated. I stood there speechless. Mom reached the front row, the one marked reserved for bride's family, and sat down. Then, with the calmest voice, she said, "Proceed." No apology, no smile, just that word, proceed. We finished the ceremony. My hands were shaking the entire time. Nathan squeezed them tighter, silently telling me to breathe. After the I do's, the guests cheered. My mom clapped slowly, almost sarcastically. At the reception, she kept her distance, but every time I looked her way, she was watching me, studying me like she was waiting for something to go wrong. Then at dinner, it happened again. Nathan's mom stood up to give a toast. It was heartfelt, emotional, about how happy she was to welcome me into the family. Everyone clapped. And that's when my mom leaned over to Chloe and whispered something. They both laughed, loud enough for me to hear. The smile I had been holding all day finally cracked. I excused myself, walked out to the garden, and finally let my tears fall. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from Chloe. It said, "Check the group chat." For a second, I hesitated. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to ruin what little was left of my day. But I opened it anyway. It was our family group chat, the Miller's Heart. And what I saw there made my blood run cold. Hundreds of unread messages, photos, memes, comments, all about me. Messages like, "Can't believe she actually went through with it. She looks desperate. Did you see that dress? So tacky." Even my aunt had joined in. Even people I hadn't seen in years. They were mocking me. On my wedding day. That was the moment I realized they hadn't just skipped my wedding. They were celebrating my pain. And that's when something inside me changed. I stopped crying. I stopped shaking. I just went quiet. I walked back inside, feeling strangely calm. I looked at my mom, sitting there with her wine glass, smiling politely at the other guests. I walked up to her and said quietly, "Thank you for coming." She looked up. "Well, I couldn't let you embarrass the family completely alone." I smiled, not of happiness, but of acceptance. I said, "You already did that for me." And I walked away. That night, I didn't throw the bouquet, I didn't dance, but I did something better. I made a promise to myself. I'll never let people like that define love for me again. But the story doesn't end there, because a week later, I discovered why my mom had come and what she did during the reception when nobody was watching. And that truth, it would change everything I thought I knew about family, forgiveness, and betrayal. A week after the wedding, life felt quieter. Nathan and I had moved into our new apartment, just 2 rooms and a small balcony, but it felt like peace. For the first time in my life, I could breathe without worrying about someone watching, judging, or correcting me. But peace has a strange way of inviting ghosts. One afternoon, as I unpacked the last of my boxes, I found an old photo album. our family trip to Yellowstone. Mom's handwriting was on the cover. The Millers, Our Happy Days. I flipped through the pages. There we were, smiling, camping, roasting marshmallows, and I wondered, when did love turn into pride? When did family become competition? I closed the album and decided to delete the family group chat from my phone. But before I could, a message popped up. This time from Aunt Diane. It said, "Ashley, I think you should see this. I'm sorry." Attached was a video. At first, it looked like random clips from the wedding reception. Guests laughing, music playing, people dancing. But then the camera zoomed in, and I saw my mom. She wasn't sitting quietly like I thought. She was standing near the bar with Chloe and a few of her friends. They were laughing, but not in celebration. They were showing people something on Chloe's phone, a screenshot. My photo from my engagement party, and under it a caption that read, "Some people will do anything for attention." They laughed. Then my mom raised her glass and said, "To mistakes we can't undo." Everyone cheered. It wasn't a toast to love, it was a toast to mockery. I felt my knees weaken, my vision blurred. Nathan came into the room, saw my face, and grabbed the phone. He watched it silently, jaw tightening with every second. When it ended, he said only 4 words. "I'll handle this, Ash." 2 days later, Nathan asked me to come with him somewhere. He didn't tell me where we were going. We drove across town in silence, through familiar streets that led straight to my parents' house. My heart sunk. The same white porch, the same blue shutters, but it didn't feel like home anymore. Mom opened the door before we could knock. Her expression, polite, distant. "Oh, look who finally decided to visit. Honeymoon over already?" Nathan's voice was calm but firm. "We're not here for small talk. We need to clear something up." Mom folded her arms. "If it's about that wedding nonsense..." "It's not nonsense. It's about the video." For a moment, she froze. Her face changed, just slightly, like she hadn't expected us to know. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that hides discomfort. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and hit play. The video filled the room. Her voice, her laughter, her words. When it ended, there was silence. Even Chloe looked shaken. Mom tried to speak, but no words came. Finally, she whispered, "I didn't mean for it to get out." Nathan frowned. "So you did mean to do it, just not to get caught." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't understand, Ashley. I was angry. I thought you were choosing him over us." I said softly, "Mom, you didn't choose him instead of me. I chose him because he's good to me, because he listens, because he's not ashamed of love." She shook her head. "You embarrassed the family. You made me look like I didn't raise you with standards." That sentence, "you embarrassed the family," was the same one she had used my whole life. When I wanted to study art instead of medicine, when I wore thrift store clothes instead of designer brands, when I spoke up instead of staying quiet. It was never about me, it was about her reflection. I walked out before she could finish. Nathan followed, but as I reached the car, Chloe came running after me. Her voice trembled. "Ash, wait!" I turned around. She handed me a folded piece of paper. "I think you should read this. Mom wrote it the night before your wedding. She never sent it." Then she walked away. I stood there for a moment, paper in hand, unsure if I wanted to know. But curiosity and pain share the same heart. I opened it. It said, "Ashley, if you go through with this wedding, I don't know if I can forgive you. You remind me too much of myself. Stubborn, emotional, blind when it comes to love. I gave up my own dreams for this family, and now you're walking away from everything I built. Maybe I envy you. Maybe I'm angry because you're doing what I never had the courage to do. I'll probably say things I don't mean, but please remember, even in anger, I never stopped loving you." The handwriting broke in places, small ink blots where tears had fallen. I stood there, reading those words over and over. All the anger I had been holding melted into something else: grief. Because for the first time, I saw her not as a mother who hated me, but as a woman who was lost inside her own expectations. I went back inside. She was sitting on the couch, face in her hands. I sat beside her. "Mom," I said softly, "you could have just told me that." She looked up, eyes red. "Would you have listened?" I smiled weakly. "Maybe not, but at least we would have been honest." We sat there in silence for a long time. No apologies, no perfect ending. Just silence. The kind that finally felt real. That night, back home, Nathan held me while I cried, not from pain this time, but from release. Sometimes closure doesn't come from an apology, it comes from understanding why someone hurt you. A week later, I sent my mom a message. "I'm not ready to forget everything, but I am ready to start over. Someday." She replied with just one word: someday. A year later. A year passed. Nathan and I built a quiet life. We traveled, we worked, we laughed. And then one day, I got another message from Mom. It said, "Come over. There's something I want to show you." When I arrived, I noticed something new on the living room wall. A framed photo from my wedding. Not the one taken by the photographer, but a candid shot someone else had captured. In it, Nathan and I were holding hands, laughing under the fairy lights, unaware of anyone watching. Below the photo, a small note read, "Love isn't about appearances, it's about courage." I looked at Mom. She smiled faintly. I found it after the wedding. I didn't understand it then. I do now. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just stood there, finally on the same side of silence. Now, when people ask about my wedding day, I don't tell them about the drama or the texts or the pain. I tell them it was the day I learned that family isn't always the people who cheer the loudest. Sometimes it's the people who stay, even when the noise fades. Nathan and I still keep that photo on our wall, and next to it, I've kept my mother's letter.